right, everyone, we are rolling into another episode of Return. Today we want to look at Revelation 19:7, a verse that has been really encouraging to me lately, something that we've been talking about quite a bit, and that's just a verse that really gives us assurance of the fact that there will be a bride ready and equally yoked and awaiting Jesus when he returns. So I'm excited to jump into our content today. Let's do this. Okay, so like I mentioned, I want to look at Revelation 19:7, and I want to, kind of expand a little bit from there on some things that have been taking place recently. At the time of us recording this podcast, we just came through the weekend where really sadly and unfortunately there were two mass shootings in America, the one in El Paso and the one in Dayton, Ohio. And obviously it's just that causes a lot of pausing, reflecting, grieving, obviously, with the lives that are lost and the tragedy of what happened. And I'm not wanting to comment on anything political, but I will just say that there has been, it kind of just makes you pause and just be really somber about the amount of things that have been taking place recently and kind of this increase of darkness that we have been seeing. And so part of what I want to talk about today and for us to have a conversation about is, one, just these two brides that we see at the end of the book of Revelation, and we'll develop that a little bit more. But starting first with Revelation 19, this is something that I've been looking at a lot lately, because this verse really, when you take this verse and you speak it over yourself, over your life, when you, just put it in front of you and stare at it, it really builds hope and confidence. And that's because what we see in Revelation 19:7 is there's this amazing verse that says, "Let us be glad and rejoice, for the marriage of the Lamb has come and his wife has made herself ready." So I want to just look at that for a little bit and talk about why is that verse so important for us to lay hold of right now.
Yeah, well, that is the completion of all the dreams of God. And it's basically that we made it. We made it through history. We made it through our mistakes. We accepted the Savior. We survived the Old Testament. We survived the New Testament. So Revelation 19 is like what Isaiah 62 verse 5 says, that we are basically a crown and a jewel in the hand of our King. So is this victory that is the expansion of the cross now in human flesh, in virtue, is in the weakness of a bride that is infected with the flesh and sin and all of these situations that happen, but overcame because of the Spirit, because of love, and because of the blood of the Lamb. So Revelation 19 is a slap in the face to the principalities and powers and to our flesh, our fallen flesh and human nature, saying there was actually vindicating the fact that there was love that was stronger than death, and that the many waters of tribulation, which Revelation 19 is at the end of the Great Tribulation, that the many waters did not quench this love.
Yeah.
That actually God's love overcame, not the world, like the definition of the love of the world, but God's love. So anyways, so that's it's basically quenching ultimately all the accusations of Satan, saying that God forsake us, that God he's a liar, that God's love is dumb, and all of these humanistic harlot Babylon lies that we were accused over and over again. Revelation 19 vindicates God's ways, vindicates the path of humility, vindicates that God is backing up this man plan. which is the gospel. So, I mean, so many things to say about Revelation 19, but it's the culmination of the victory of the bride over sin, over the flesh, and over human nature.
Yeah, so I just think about, like, again, to put it in perspective of, we kind of face these really hard moments in life. And obviously there's hard moments that we face as individuals, you know, when pain or crisis touches our life. And then we see on this large scale too, like just the sufferings and the groanings of things happening in the world, shootings, natural disasters, things like that. And it causes us to pause and kind of realign our perspective to things. And I think what's so important about this verse of Revelation 19:7 is it's talking specifically about a bride.
Yeah.
And so when we back up and we evaluate our life and we evaluate the bigger picture of our lives, we need the reminder of who we are to God. And I think it's really important. I mean, a lot of what we've talked about in this podcast has been kind of broader themes, bigger storyline topics, you know, looking at from creation until the end and getting some of the bigger picture of those things. But something that I think is massively important for us to see in Scripture is how deeply God's desire is for a people that would love him and be loved by him. Yeah. And what I get like so encouraged by in this verse is that this is, like you said, this is like the final statement over our lives as believers that says, you did it. Like, the bride made herself ready. Yeah. The bride is white. She's pure. She made it through the pain and the turmoil and the tribulations of life and the tribulations of the last 3.5 years. And she's come out victorious and pure and bright.
Yeah. And we need to emphasize too that Revelation 19 is also saying, is after the resurrection of the saints. Yeah. The resurrection and the transformation of the bodies of those who remain, which we call it the rapture and the transformation. So is the prize that God gives to the bride is a new body. Yeah. New body, new nature, never a demonic thought entering or even tempting us. Sin has no way in us anymore. We have no trace of the past. Human sinful nature. So it's God has prepared the bride a feast, a bridegroom, a city, and a glorified resurrected body like Jesus has to be with him forever. So he's even a slap in the face to death, the final enemy. Yeah. We've overcome. And so it's a dignification or I don't know, vindication of the cross. So like you said, we made it. We paid the price. We took our cross. Mm-hmm. We died with Christ every day of our lives and all the saints of old. Now we get to enjoy forever. Yeah. We get to enjoy him forever too. Yeah. And I think part of it is we get to enjoy him and also he gets to enjoy us. Yeah. Because it's a bridal relationship with a bridegroom. So, okay, I want to talk a little bit then also just some of the context, though, that we see this verse come up, because I mentioned really briefly at the beginning that what we see actually is there really is two brides at the end of the book of Revelation. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I think that this is important to talk about is because just the amount of darkness and sin and just grossness that we're seeing in the earth right now, it's only going to grow into maturity and into fullness. And that's the thing is there's two brides because there's two different trajectories right now of where people are going based off the decisions that they're making. And so right before this chapter of Revelation 19, we have two chapters that actually describe the other woman, or the other bride, so to speak.
And that's Revelation 17 and 18. And what we see there is she's called the harlot Babylon. But really what it is it's the culmination of darkness in the earth, the culmination of sin and lawlessness abounding. And it's wrapped up in this woman. It's wrapped up in also like what humanity can be in their own minds, what humanity can be at their best apart from God. And that's why we did a podcast on Psalm 2 a little bit ago, but talking about how the nations right now are trying to cast off the laws of God because they find them restrictive, and they find them, restricting their human potential, restricting, their ability to be free or be who they are. And so I want to just talk a little bit, give a synopsis of what the harlot Babylon is, and why it's so important right now for the decision making and the point of history that we're in right now to be aware of this.
Yeah, I want to read the title because it's in capital letters in the Bible. And these two cities, the New Jerusalem and Babylon, are in capital letters, other than the name
titles
that
of Jesus.
Which is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But it says, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. That's insane. So it also says that it's the home of every demon and evil spirit. So it's important for us to discern it because it's the longest prophecy in the New Testament is about Babylon. The longest prophecy in the Old Testament is about Babylon in Jeremiah 51 or 51. And so it is the culmination of what the rebellion was about. And it's interesting to me that the subject of the Antichrist, it's done by chapter 13. Even though the Antichrist destroys Babylon after 3.5 years, the book of Revelation, before the culmination of Revelation 19, the coming of Jesus, it highlights with the longest prophecy of the New Testament about harlot Babylon. So to me, the Bible tells us the Antichrist is an insane beast that, yes, is a man that if people are going to follow him, is going to be the reflection of who they want for a king. But harlot Babylon is not a person, it's in our members. It's like the highlight of our flesh and our human self-righteousness, and basically the fruit of eating the
knowledge
fruit
of the tree of good and evil.
Yeah, it's like if you eat, like we have this story back in the day. One of my friends, one of my relatives, his parents, my father's sister, would give him a lot of carrot juice every single day, until one day they freaked out because he was literally a carrot.
Like his skin was orange.
The color was a carrot. And they took it to the doctor, and then after doing some tests, they asked, like, what is the diet? And like, yeah, we're super healthy. Anyways, you become what you eat, literally. The color was so funny, but that helps me that...
Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. But Revelation 17 and 18, we see this harlotry that is not just a new character in the story, is the reflection and the full permission from God to be who we are without Christ. Mm-hmm. It is is the Romans 1, I'm going to burn your conscience. You want to do evil acts, women with women, men with men. Okay, do it. I'm going to deliver you. That's one of the scariest phrases in the Bible, when God delivers you.
To your own sin.
To your own sin and your own thing. So that's why harlot Babylon is the culmination of humanity without Christ, and is the ultimate fruit of eating the knowledge of good and evil and saying no to life and dependency of God.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that, like you were talking about, we have these two characters that in a lot of ways just represent the fullness of sin. We have the beast, the Antichrist, who talks about, like, he's actually called the lawless one.
Yeah.
And Jesus tells us in Matthew, I believe it's 24, he says, lawlessness will abound and the love of many will grow cold.
Yeah.
And so what happens when lawlessness abounds is people lose their ability to love. They lose their ability to feel, to care for one another, to care for their fellow man. And it's interesting because that's the opposite of, obviously, the first and second great commandment, which is to love God and love other people. So if lawlessness is abounding in your heart, you're losing your ability to love and care for other people. And that at its maximum and in its just culmination, we see is called a beast. He's more animal-like than human, and just without ability to show mercy and kindness to other people. And then at the other side, we see humanity in just reaching the fullness of her luxuries and wealth and prestige and filthy abominations related to sexual immorality and drunkenness and I guess the other one would be like prosperity, just like the luxuries that she has. And what we see is that even her at her fullest potential is a harlot. And so we're left with these pictures of a beast and a harlot. But then that's where we can get so much courage from looking at Revelation 19:7 and seeing, okay, in the midst of those other two things happening, there is a bride that is being refined, that is being made pure, that is being made white, that doesn't even have a spot
wrinkles
on her or a wrinkle, no even stain on her from the world and from things, that she's facing and going through. And so I just think that verse is something that we need to take courage from and really pay attention to. But I want to boil this down to, okay, how does knowing those things affect us right now?
Yeah.
Like how does this affect our decision making? How does this affect the relationships that we're in? How does this touch us?
Well, many things that we can say. I'll think of two. First of all, it alleviates the anxiety that wants to attack me every day when I see the world going to hell.
Yeah.
Like, basically, that is the insanity and I don't know, it's so outrageous, so confrontative against Christianity and what we believe. Mm-hmm. We are more and more the rare people that are the reason why things are going wrong, which is not true.
Meaning it's easy to find a scapegoat for something.
Yes, it's the witch hunt, but on the ultimate level, and it's going there. And that brings anxiety many times. It's like, man, and then you ponder and, in our weakness and sometimes when we get trapped with thoughts like that, we can be pondering like Psalm 73, why did the wicked prosper? And what's the point? Like, is someone even care that we're righteous in the secret place when everyone is enjoying all of these pleasures in the flesh, but we are trying to be consistent in when no one sees us and when everyone is seeing us, and someone care? This chapter answers that, and is the same answer that the psalmist in Psalm 73 had. I was thinking like that until I entered into your tabernacle, until I had a perspective of the end of them. Revelation 19 tells us we win. Mm-hmm. They lose, we win. We are betting everything we have to the lottery, and we have the winner ticket. And so it gives me confidence to keep saying yes to righteousness, especially in the secret place. When no one sees me, when I'm just with my wife or alone, or even in front of people, this really helps me to say, okay, every day counts. Every single day counts, because you're looking at us, and I have the privilege to make myself ready. for that day. So it like alleviates the anxiety and actually gives me courage to say, you're pushing, I'll push back harder, not in my strength, but in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So, it gives me confidence.
Yeah, because I think what's that saying? You start with the end in mind, right?
Yeah.
So if you know, okay, Revelation 19:7, this is the end of my story. This is the end goal of my life. I love the way that Romans 8 puts it, because this really is tapping into the truth of the gospel, that we've been predestined to be conformed to the image of Christ.
Yeah.
That's the final statement over our lives. That's the final declaration over our lives. So if we're starting with the end in mind, things don't just happen out of a vacuum. Obviously, it is faithfulness in the little. It is step by step, decision by decision that leads us to that place. And so the thing is if I want to get to Revelation 19:7, it really puts weight on my life today, my life choices, the things that I focus my attention on, the things that I let in front of my eyes, the things that I listen to, the things that I say. And I think when we see that is just, that's the declaration over our lives, it can really affect us today. But I think the other thing, again, tapping into the fact that it says that the bride is made ready. Part of the way that we are preparing today is it really is about encountering a man. It really is about encountering Jesus as our bridegroom. And how, so much, again, like when we look at how lawlessness is going to abound and the love of many are growing cold, that means for us as the church, it's the exact opposite, that our love is actually growing. It's getting red hot, that we're feeling like the bride that's preparing for her wedding day and just can't wait to get married, can't wait to finally like be with her bridegroom forever, get rid of all the boundaries and all the, terrible things that you have when you're dating and engaged. Like we were so happy after we got married, not just because of, whatever, but because we actually get to be together all of the time. You get to live with your best friend, which is amazing. And so part of it is right now cultivating that inward love and that fire for Jesus. That's just, we see the Spirit and the bride at the end of the book of Revelation. She's saying, come. It's the bride that's saying, come. I miss you, Jesus. I want to be with you. I want you to make all the wrong things right. I want everything that hinders love to be removed. So everything that, would oppose God, everything that would oppose him from being able to come and dwell on the earth, you want it gone. And so really that's the hope and the victory of what we have and what we see from Revelation 19:7.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And it's like what you say, it dignifies our 99.9% of our lives, which is not this, and is not preaching in a conference on a microphone. That's 0.0001% of what we do. But in Christianity, especially in this side of the world, we many times worship and idealize like, oh, I want to be the person that is top dog, that is, preaching, and that's like the ultimate goal of spirituality. And God is like, no, actually not. Actually, 99% of what you do is hidden. Is mundane. It is, playing with my baby, taking care of Gabe, which is super awesome. But, just normal stuff. And I love that Revelation 19 is super lofty. It's amazing. It's epic. But it's all of these decisions. The bride is beautiful because of the 99% of the routines of life. Yeah. She was faithful. And that's what God calls faithful. He's not impressed with our impact. Because, the God of the universe is never going to be impressed with our impact. He's just impressed with the faithfulness in the little. And that's what I love about Jesus coming out of the waters is an example for us. He has only spent 30 years taking care of his widow mom. And then the Father stops everything. Heaven is in silence, listening to the Father. Everyone on the earth that was listening, they are hearing the voice of the Father saying, "This is my beloved Son, and I'm well pleased in you." And then he says, you're worth of the Holy Spirit residing in you. And he has done nothing in ministry, but he has taken care of his mom. He has taken care of his brothers and sisters. He's been a faithful servant of his family. And we don't even see one chapter of that hidden life. And God says, you're successful right now. Even before you start your ministry, you are already amazing. So Revelation 19 is epic, but epic means every day.
Yeah.
When no one cares about what you did and the decisions you made, he cares.
Yeah.
So that connection to me is how it motivates me to realign my heart every day.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I hope that this podcast has encouraged you. I want to, just encourage you to go look at this verse. I mean, do what you need to do to get it to where it's actually real in your heart. Something I've been saying is this is a verse that you want to take to the bank, meaning you want to count on it, rely on it, declare it over your life. I am going to be the pure and spotless bride. And no matter what's happening in society around us, no matter the tragedies that are taking place, the Lord is committed to his people. He is committed to bringing out a bride from every tribe, tongue, and nation and people. So be blessed and be encouraged, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
See you guys.